In the last class, we summarized everything that we learned. New changes in Java 8, interface related changes, default and static methods, lambda expressions, how to write the lambdas, how to invoke the lambdas, what are the functional interfaces we have in the Java 8, what is predicate, what is by predicate, supplier, consumer, by consumer, function, by function, how to sort collections using lambda with a comparator, how to create a thread by using lambda, what is a method reference, and what is constructor reference. And we discussed about for each method also. For each method introduced in Java 1.8 version, for each method added in iterable interface. For each method is a default method, it is having a body. This method is used to access each element of the application, traverse a collection from start to end. By using for each method, we can do that. Similarly, guys, in the Java 8, they have added one new class called string joiner. In the Java 8, they added one new class called string joiner. In new class string joiner is introduced in java.util package. In java.util package, java.util.stringjoiner class introduced in Java 1.8. Class introduced in Java 1.8 version. This class is used to join more than one string with a specified delimiter. It is used to join more than one string with a specified delimiter. It is used to join more than one string with a specified delimiter. Okay, we can concat the strings with the prefix and suffix also by using this string joiner. We can use prefix and suffix also. We can concat prefix and suffix. We can concat prefix and suffix while joining strings using string joiner. All right, let me take one simple example to understand how to work with this string joiner class. String joiner basically is used to join the strings. String joiner is used to join the strings. Now here, let me create one class string joiner demo. New class string joiner demo. Click on finish. String joiner demo, click on finish. Now go for main method. I want to join two strings by using string joiner. So let me create one object by using string joiner. Let me create the object for this class string joiner. It is available in java.util package. String joiner sj is equal to new string joiner. String joiner sj is equal to new string joiner. In order to create the object for string joiner, it is expecting some parameter. Character sequence it is expecting as a parameter. Now here I'm giving the delimiter as hyphen. Now sj dot add of Ashok IT or Ashok I'm giving, and sj dot add of IT I'm giving, sj dot add of Java. Like this I'm adding two strings by using string joiner. String joiner class I have created. When I'm creating the object for the string joiner, I'm using delimiter. Hyphen I'm using as a delimiter. Then I am adding sj.add of Ashok, sj.add of IT, sj.add of Java. Then let me print system.out.println of sj. Whatever the string joiner object I have created, I'm printing that by using SJ. Run this program. Can you see my string is added with a given delimiter? Can you see the 3 words Ashok, IT, Java, whatever we have, those are added with the delimiter or not? Yes or no? Yes. Earlier, if I want to do this normally by using string, we need to use double quotes plus symbols we need to use, right? So they made it easy. If you want to join multiple strings, if you want to join with multiple strings by using a delimiter, then you can go for string joiner. String buffer, string builder we have, but for every string, if you want to add, you need to keep hyphen and you need to concatenate them, double quotes and all those things you need to add. That joining process they made easy by using this string joiner. String joiner class is used to join strings with the delimiter. String joiner class is used to join the strings by using delimiter. Similarly, we can use prefix and postfix also. Prefix and prefix and suffix also we can use while joining the strings. Okay, now let me take string joiner. This is I'm considering as SJ1 SJ1 add SJ1 dot add. I'm printing SJ1. Now let me go for SJ2 is equal to new string of hyphen is the delimiter prefix. Everything I want to keep inside the bracket. Everything I want to keep inside the bracket. Now here I'm going to create string joiner SJ is equal to new string joiner. I'm keeping 3 parameters. I'm keeping 3 parameters. Here earlier I used only 1 parameter. Now I am using 3 parameters. Can I say string joiner class is having overloaded constructor? Guys, can I say string joiner class is having overloaded constructor? Yes. So here if you observe the predefined code of the string joiner, here one constructor is available which will take character sequence as a parameter. Another constructor is available, it will take delimiter, comma prefix, comma suffix. So like this we are having 2 constructors in the string joiner. String joiner class is used to join the strings by using delimiter, and we can join the strings by using prefix and suffix also. Okay guys, now let me add this sj2 dot add of Ashok and sj2 add of IT and sj2 add of Java. Clear? Now I am trying to add. Here also I'm adding 3 words. Here also I'm adding 3 words. Let's understand what is the difference between first constructor and the second constructor. Difference between first constructor and the second constructor. So if you observe the difference between the first constructor and second constructor, it is using prefix and suffix for the string. In the first constructor, I have used only delimiter. In the second constructor, I have given delimiter and prefix and suffix. It is giving output like this. So here, second constructor will give output like this. First constructor will give the output without prefix and suffix. So like this, we can use 2 parameters. Like this, we can use 2 parameters, 3 parameters for string joiner. So string joiner is a very simple class which is available here. That string joiner that string joiner is used to join the strings by using delimiter, and it is used to join string with a delimiter, comma, prefix, comma, suffix. Now, this class constructors. So here we can do string joiner sj is equal to new string joiner. We can take char sequence of delim, that is one parameter. You can pass a delimiter as a parameter to create that, and you can pass char sequence prefix, comma, char sequence suffix. Like this, there are two constructors available. If you use first constructor, whatever the strings that you are adding, they will be separated by using given delimiter. If you go for second constructor, delimiter will be there for every string that you add, prefix will be added, and suffix will be added for the given string. So that is string joiner class, which introduced in Java 1.8 version. All right, next one. Another important concept is available, that is called optional class in the Java 1.8. Guys, it is very important. Even in the Spring Boot also, we are going to use this class extensively. That is optional class. Optional is a predefined class available in java.util package. Optional java.util optional class introduced in Java 1.8 version. Optional class is used to avoid null pointer exceptions in the program. Okay, getting null pointer exception is a very common scenario in every project. Whenever we write a program, getting the null pointer exception is very common scenario when we go for a project. Now, when we have a null pointer exception, our program execution will fail. So we discussed about exception handling. Can you guys tell me what is exception handling? What is exception and what is exception handling in the Java? Guys, can you tell me what is exception and what is exception handling in the Java? Come on, guys. What is the exception and what is exception handling? Exception means a problem in the program. Whenever exception occurs, our program will fail. Okay, so whenever the exception occurs, our program will be terminated abnormally. To achieve the graceful termination, we are going to use exception handling. Let me show you one simple exception. Now, new class. I'm going to create one class called message service. I'm creating one class called message service. Okay guys, message service. And I'm going to create one more class called user class. I'm creating one class with a name called user. Public string get username by ID. It is expecting integer ID as a parameter. Here I'm writing some logic. If ID equals to 100, return the name as some Raju. Else if ID double equals to, if ID double equals to 101, then return something like Rani. Okay. Else if ID double equals to 102, then return something like John. Return something like John. Else return null. Okay. Null means nothing. Null means nothing. Okay guys, now here I'm writing one class with a name called user class. Inside the user class, I have written some method. That method is get username by ID. Get username by ID is my method. So ID I'm taking as a method parameter. Name I am returning as a return type. String is a return type of the method. Integer is a parameter. This method will take int value as a input. This method will return string as a output. If given input is equals to 100, it will return the Raju. If given input is equals to 101, it will return Rani. If given input equals to 102, it will return John. Otherwise, if the ID is not matching with any of these three conditions, then it will return null value. Okay, now let me go for message service. Let me go for message service. In this message service, I will write a main method. I will write a main method. Now, in this main method, I want to read the data from the user. I want to read the data from the user by using scanner. Scanner S is equal to new scanner of system.in. Okay, scanner dot, first let me write one thing, system.out.println, enter user ID. S dot next int. So get the integer ID, store into this variable user ID. Whatever the user ID is entered in the console, that user ID I'm storing into one variable. Now from the user, I want to get the user record and I want to print that user on the console. Message service. Okay guys, here what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the object for user. U is equal to new user. U dot get username by ID. Whatever the ID I'm getting from the keyboard, but that by using that I'm calling user class method. Get username by ID. I'm going to get the username. One Java class is communicating with another Java class. There is a Java class called user. User class is having a method that is taking ID as input. Based on the ID, it is returning the message. It is returning the name as a output. Now here I have a message service class. So here I'm taking a scanner. Scanner is used to read the data from the keyboard. From the scanner, I'm reading the ID, user ID. Based on the user ID, I'm getting the username. Once I get the username, I want to convert that username into uppercase and I want to print a message. Okay guys, string message is equal to username dot to uppercase, username dot to uppercase plus hello. Okay. Now system.out.println of message. This is my application. This is my application. Scanner S is equal to new scanner of system.in, system.out.println, enter user ID. So I'm taking that user ID by use next int. Once I get that user ID, I'm storing that into variable. Then I'm creating the object for the user. By using that user ID, I'm creating the object for the user class, and I'm calling the method get username by ID. By giving the user ID, we got the username. That username I'm converting into uppercase and I'm printing a message. That message I'm preparing here. That message I'm printing on the console. Are you guys able to understand my application? Are you guys able to understand my application? User class will take ID, will give the username. Message service class will access the data from the user and it is going to get the username. For that username, it is printing a message and message is printing on the console. Let's run our application. Enter user ID. User ID I'm giving as 100. When I give the enter ID as 100, are we able to get the message successfully? Raju, hello. Is our application working as expected? Yes, it is working as expected. Run this. Enter user ID as 101. Rani, hello. Okay. Now let me run this. Enter user ID 102. John, hello. Let me enter one value. I'm entering as a 200. Enter. Failed. Why it is failed? 200 I am giving. When I give the 200, I'm giving null pointer exception. In which line we are getting the null pointer exception? Null pointer exception we are getting in the line number 17 of message service. Click on this. This line number is giving a null pointer exception for us. Run this program. Enter user ID 200. When I give the 200 as the input, this message, this class is giving null pointer exception. Can you tell me why we are getting this null pointer exception? Can you guys tell me why we are getting this null pointer exception? Can you guys tell me why we are getting this null pointer exception? Can you guys tell me why we are getting this null pointer exception? When I give that user ID as a 200 for this method has checked condition. First condition not satisfied, second condition not satisfied, third condition not satisfied. Then it is returning a null value. When I get the username as a null dot to uppercase. When you perform some operation on the null value, then you are going to get a null pointer exception. When you perform some operation on the null value, then you are going to get a null pointer exception. So getting this null pointer exception is very common in every project. Getting this null pointer exception is very common in the real-time projects. Now, to avoid these kind of null pointer exceptions, Java.util. Optional class introduced in Java 1.8 version. Optional class is used to avoid null pointer exceptions in the Java program. Whenever we return some value, whoever is calling our method, here I have written my method. My method is taking some input. My method is returning some value. Somebody will call my method. My method will return some data. They will perform some operation on my data directly. Now you see, they called my method. My method returned username. they are directly performing operation on the value which is returned by my method. This is the problem. Because of this problem, we are getting null pointer exception. Are you guys able to understand? When you perform some operation on any object directly, there is a chance of getting null pointer exception. There is a chance of getting null pointer exception. Are you guys clear with my point? Are you guys clear with my point? Are you guys clear with my point? Yes. So now what we need to do? We need to check whatever the username we got, that is null or not. So how we need to check that? If username not equal to null, if username not equal to null, then only perform this operation. If username not equal to null, then only we need to perform the operation, else system.out.println invalid id. Invalid id. Run this program. It is asking me to enter the id. Enter the user id. User id I'm giving as 200. Now null pointer exception is not there. It is saying that invalid id. But here, if you observe, I'm a good programmer. I'm writing a null check before doing operation on the object, string object. But can you guarantee in the project everybody will do the null check before performing the operation? Can you guys confirm that every programmer will follow this null check before doing operation on the object? Some people may follow, some people may not follow. If people don't follow this null check, to avoid the null pointer exceptions, whenever you want to perform any operation on the object, first you need to do a null check. If that object, whatever the string object I have, whatever the username I got it, if that username not equal to null, then only I will convert the username to uppercase. Okay. If username is null, this condition will not satisfy. It will go to else block. Whatever the username I got, if that username is not null, then only I will do my logic execution. In order to avoid the null pointer exceptions, you need to do null check. Null pointer exception is very common problem in the real time. So whenever you are writing a program, whenever we are writing the logic, we will do several operations on our objects. Sometimes our object may have data, sometimes our objects may be null. When the object is null, if you perform some operation on the null value, then you will get a null pointer exception. If you get a null pointer exception, your program will be stopped abnormally. So now here, in order to avoid the null pointer exceptions, as a programmer, what is our duty? Guys, in order to avoid the null pointer exceptions as a programmer, what is our duty? Can you guys tell me what we need to do to avoid this null pointer exception? Guys, come on. What we need to do in order to avoid null pointer exception, every time we need to do a null check. In order to avoid the null pointer exception, we need to do a null check. In order to avoid null pointer exception, we need to do the null check. But can you guarantee that? Can you guarantee that everybody will do the null check before doing these operations? Can you guarantee that everybody will do this null check? In the project development, in the project, multiple team members will be available. So everybody will do a null check before writing the code. Some people will do it, some people will not do it. If anybody has not done that, then our project may fail while executing that logic. So here, in order to prevent this problem, in the Java 1.8, they have given a concept called optional class. So what we can do is, here, as our method is returning directly string value, as our method directly returning a string value, user may perform operation directly on the given value. My method is returning a string. Here, this programmer, who is this user class developed by one programmer, excuse me guys. Yeah. This user class is developed by one programmer and message service class is developing by another programmer. User class has written some method, that method taking one input and that method returning string as a output. As this method directly returning a string, this message service class programmer calling that user class method, getting the string as a return type, storing that string into this variable, and directly doing the operation on the string without doing a null check. Without doing a null check, he is doing the operation directly. When he do that operation directly, if he get the value into this variable, no problem. If you don't get the value into the variable, then there is a problem. That problem is null pointer exception. Enter ID 200. Now we got the null pointer exception. So how to avoid this problem? How to avoid the null pointer exceptions? Here, don't return object directly. Don't return object directly like this. Don't return object directly like this. Why? Because when we return the object directly like this, the users may perform operation directly without null check. When they perform operation directly with without null check, then there is a chance of getting null pointer exception. Users may perform operation directly without null check, then there is a chance of getting null pointer exception. Now, how to avoid that null pointer exception? By using optional. Now here, get username. I'm writing a method called get username. Instead of taking the string as a return type, I'm going to take optional as a return type. Instead of taking string as a return type, my method is taking optional as a return type. Return optional dot of return optional dot of nullable. Return dot optional of nullable. I'm returning the value as Raju. Okay, here I'm going to return the optional of nullable Raju, Rani. Okay guys, now return John of nullable John. Instead of writing like this, let me do one thing. Here I'm going to take this string name is equal to null. String name is equal to null. Now name is equal to Raju. Okay, here I'm going to take name is equal to some Rani. If ID is equal to 1 or 2, I'm going to return name is equal to John. Else, name is else. No need of writing any else condition because already if these conditions are not satisfied, name value having null value only. Now here, once this logic is completed, once this execution is completed, what I'm going to do is return optional dot, return optional of nullable of name. Return optional of nullable dot name. That means, boss, whatever I am returning from this method, that can have a value or that can be a null. So if I return string directly, they will call my method, they will store that into a variable, they will do the conversion, they will perform operation on the string directly. What I am doing is, when my method wants to return some value, then I will not return value directly. I will return optional. Optional means data may available, data may not available. Now here, let me comment these lines of code, 3 lines of code. Now here, when I call user dot get username by passing user ID, when I call this method, earlier when I call the method, that has returned the username directly as a string. But now my method is not returning a string directly. My method is returning a optional object. So when my method is returning a optional object, can user perform operation directly? Earlier, when we call the get username by ID, that method returned a string value directly. So user performed username dot to uppercase. Whatever the string is returned, they are not checking whether it is null or not null. Directly they are doing the operation. When that value is null, this line of code, 17th number will fail. It may throw null pointer exception if you get the username as a null value. You will get the if username is a null value, that 17th line is going to throw null pointer exception. To avoid this, what we are doing, I can't tell to every programmer to do the null check in the project. Even if I tell every programmer to do the null check, will they do the null check? Guys, I will tell to the people, hey, my method will return a string value. Before using my username, please do null check. If it is not null, then only perform the operation. Will everybody follow that? If we tell also, will everybody follow that null check before doing the operation? Will everybody follow that? Come on, guys. Will everybody follow that or everybody will not follow that? Some people will follow, some people will not follow. Now, if I return optional object directly, do I need to tell them to do null check? Can they perform operation on my string username directly? Can they perform operation on my username directly? No, because my method is not going to return the username directly. My method is returning a optional. When my method is returning a optional, the programmer who is calling my method, they will get the optional object as a return type. Then they need to check if username dot is present. So in the optional is a container. Inside the optional, really do we have the data or not? This mandatory that everybody who is calling my method, they need to check within this optional that username is present or not. If it is present, then only they need to get that username dot get. Then they will get the name. Once they get the name, then they will use system.out.println println name dot to uppercase plus hello. Okay, guys. Else, if it is not present, system dot out dot println no data found. Okay, guys. Do I need to tell the programmer to write this logic? No, it's mandatory for them because my method is not returning the data directly. Earlier, my method is returning the data directly. When our method returns the data directly, there is a chance that programmers will do operation directly on the data without doing a null check. When our methods return the data directly, programmers will do operation directly on the returned data, then there is a chance of getting null pointer exception. So if he is a good programmer, he will do the null check before doing the operation. But we cannot guarantee that everybody will do the null check. If the programmers don't do the null check, then there is a chance of getting null pointer exception. To avoid this problem, what the Java 8 has done is, boss, whenever you are returning some object from your method, if you have any confusion, sometimes data may available, data may not available, don't return the data directly like this. Okay, because if you return the data directly like this, somebody may call your method, they will get the null value, they may do operation on the null value, then program will give null pointer exception, then program will be stopped abnormally. Do one thing, instead of returning the object directly, you keep your object in the optional and return the optional object. When you return the optional object, whoever calls your method, they will get the optional object as a returned value. They cannot use the optional object directly. If they want to get the data from the optional, first they need to check that in this optional really data is available or not, is present. Username dot is present. If username is present, then only get it. Once you get it, then only you do the operation. Now, when my 24th line will execute, if really data present in the optional, then only my 24th line will execute. If the data is not available in the optional, 22 line condition will fail. My 24 line will not execute. So in this program, is there any chance of getting null pointer exception now? Guys, in this program, is there any chance of getting null pointer exception now? No. Why we don't get null pointer exception now? Why we don't get null pointer exception now? What is the reason? That user class is returning the method first, is returning the directly value, or that user class method returning the optional object? User class returning the data directly, or user class returning the optional? Optional. What is the advantage if you return the optional? And what is the disadvantage if you return the data directly? What is the disadvantage here? And what is the advantage here? What is the disadvantage here? And what is the advantage here? What is the disadvantage in the first method? Can you guys tell me? What is the disadvantage with the first method? Can you guys tell me what is the disadvantage with the first method? First method may return null value. First method may return a null value. Somebody who is going to call that method may do null check, may not do null check. Some people will perform the null check, some people will not perform the null check. When they don't perform the null check, then program will get null pointer exception. Now, here in the second scenario, I'm returning optional. When I return optional from my method as a return type, will anybody, the person who is calling my method, they are getting some output as a optional. They're getting the return type as optional. Can they do operation on the optional directly? No. They cannot do the operation on the optional directly. Whenever they get the optional, first they need to check the data is available in the optional or not. If the data is present in the optional, then only they can get the data. Otherwise, they cannot get the data. So this is the advantage. Now let me run this program. Enter user ID as a 200. Then what happened? When I given 200, it called that method. In the line number 20, I called user class method get username with the user ID. User ID I have given as a 200. When I give the 200, it retrieved the data and it stored it in the optional. My method return type is optional. They cannot do operation on the optional object directly. First, they need to check optional dot is present. If it is present, then only they will get the data. Then they will perform the operation. Let me run my program once again. Let me run my program once again. 100 Raju hello. When I give the ID as 100, it is doing the operation correctly. When I give the 200 as input, when I give the 200 as the input, it is failing. No data found. Are you guys clear with my point? Are you guys clear with my point? Come on, guys. You understand what is optional? So the best practice is whenever you have the data is present, then only call it optional. What is optional? Optional java.util.optional introduced in Java 1.8 version. Optional class is used to avoid null pointer exception in the Java. What is null pointer exception? What is null pointer exception? What is null pointer exception? NPE. Okay. When we perform some operation on the null value, then we will get null pointer exception. When we perform some operation on null value, then we will get null pointer exception. For example, if I'm taking string s is equal to null, then if I do s dot length, okay, here it is going to throw null pointer exception. What is null pointer exception? When we perform some operation on null value, then we will get null pointer exception. String s is equal to null, s dot length. S is a variable which is holding null value. When we do the operation on the null value, then the result is null pointer exception. To avoid the null pointer exceptions, we need to do null checks. To avoid null pointer exception, we have to implement null checks before performing operation on any object. before performing operation on the object. Right guys, null pointer exception will occur when we perform some operation on the null value. When we perform some operation on null value, then we will get null pointer exception. String s is equal to null s dot length. It will give null pointer exception because s is a variable which is holding null value. To avoid null pointer exceptions, we have to implement null check before performing operation on the object. How can we avoid this? String s is equal to null. Here, if s not equal to null, then only we need to print that length. System dot out dot println of s dot length. Okay. Now this system dot out dot println line will execute, or this line will not execute now. My SOP statement will execute now, or my SOP statement will not execute now. If I write like this, s is equal to null s dot length, directly I am doing the operation. Directly I am doing operation on the s variable. S is a null, then null pointer. How to avoid the null pointer? To avoid null pointer exceptions, we have to implement a null check before performing operation on the object like below. Note, but in project, there is no guarantee that every programmer will implement null checks. Some people will follow, some people will not follow. If he is a good programmer, if he know the impact of the null pointer exceptions, then he will implement null check before doing the operation. But sometimes, due to some other factors, even good programmers also may forget to do null check. Yes or no? Whenever you are writing the code, you got oversight, you are thinking about the complex business logic, you forgot the basic null check. You are trying to implement a complex business logic in the project, you forgot about the basic null check. When you forget about the basic null check, then what will happen? Your mind is thinking about the complex business, what logic I need to write, how many loops I need to write, what conditions I need to check. You are busy with that business logic thinking. You are doing a brainstorming. You are doing to understand the complexity, and you are trying to write the complex logic, but the basic thing you forgot, null check. Then there is no use of that complex logic, because as you have not done the null check, your code will fail. Code fat jayega. Whenever there is a null value, if you do some operation on the value directly, then your code will run into null pointer exception. So exception means abnormal termination. Program will be stopped. So every programmer may not follow these null checks while they are doing the coding. That's why, to avoid these null checks, in the Java 1.8, they introduced a class called optional. Optional is something like a container. Whenever we are dealing with any method return type or any data, don't represent the data directly, represent the data as a optional. So whoever is going to call your method, they will get the optional object. Whenever they get the optional object, they need to check in the optional data is present or not. If the data is present, then only they will get the data, and then only they will perform the operation. In the optional, if the data is not available, they cannot perform the operation. Now see how I am creating optional object. Optional dot off nullable. What is the meaning of off nullable? There is a chance of returning a null. There is a chance of null value in that object. Optional off nullable. So when I pass a name can have some data or name can be null also. If given ID is matching with the conditions, then name variable will contain the name. If given ID not matching with the conditions, then name will be null. So there is a chance of returning a name or there is a chance of returning a null value. So whoever is going to call my method, they may get the data, they may not get the data. So whenever they call my method, earlier I have returned the name directly, they are doing some operation on the name. If the name is null, they will get null pointer exception. To avoid that null pointer exception, I don't want to return the name directly. I'm returning the optional dot of nullable. So there is a chance of returning the null value. Whenever you get that method, your method will get the optional object. Now the programmer has to check the is present method. If the optional contains the data, then only get the data. Once you get the data, then only perform the operation. Otherwise, don't perform the operation. Then only perform the operation. Otherwise, don't perform the operation. Are you guys clear with my point? Are you guys clear with my point? Come on, guys. Now tell me, what is the purpose of optional? Now, do you understand what is the purpose of optional class in the Java 1.8? Why optional class introduced in the 1.8? What is the purpose of optional class? In which package optional class is available? In which package optional class is available? Java.util. Java.util optional class introduced in Java 1.8 version. Optional class is used to avoid null pointer exceptions in the program. What is null pointer exception? When we perform some operation on null value, then we will get null pointer exception. String s is equal to null, s dot length, null pointer exception. To avoid null pointer exceptions, we have to implement a null check before performing operation on the object like below. S not equal to null. If s is not equal to null, then only do the operation on the yes. Otherwise, you will get a null pointer exception. In project, there is no guarantee that every programmer will implement null checks. Every programmer will implement null check. There is no guarantee. If anybody forgot to implement null check, then program will run into null pointer exception. Program will run into null pointer exception. Okay, to avoid this problem, we need to use optional class like below. To avoid this problem, we need to use optional class like below. So from now onwards, don't return the data directly. Don't return the data directly like this. This is without optional object. Now here I'm using with optional object, without optional and with optional object. Right, here I'm calling that method. So whenever I call the first time string, whenever I uncomment that, it will give null pointer exception. Here line number will give null pointer exception. When it gives null pointer exception, it will fail. That's why in the second scenario, I commented that problematic code and I have written get username. Get username method is giving optional. So user is getting optional object. They are not getting the data. Earlier they are getting the data. They are doing the operation on the data directly. Now they are not getting the data directly. They are getting the optional object. Whenever they get the optional object, they need to check in that optional data is present or not. If the data is present, then only they can do some operation. Otherwise, they cannot do the operation. Like this, from now onwards, whenever we are presenting the objects, we need to refer them as optional objects so that we can avoid null pointer exceptions in the projects. Clear? I hope you understand what is a string joiner and what is optional class available in Java 1.8 version. String joiner and optional class which are available in Java 1.8 version. Clear, guys? Are you clear with this? What are the new changes in the Java 8? Interface changes we understood. Default and static methods we understood. Lambda expressions we understood. Functional interfaces we understood. Collections sorting we understood. Thread creation, method references we understood. And we discussed about string joiner class. It is available in java.util package. Java.util.string joiner class. And one more thing is java.util.optional class. Java.util.optional class. And we understood for each method. For each method is expecting consumer. For each method we discussed. For each method is used to take the each element and traverse the each element. For each method is used to traverse each element. Okay. Java.util.optional class. It is used to avoid null pointer exceptions. String joiner class. Method references and constructor references. Thread creation using Lambda. We understand these concepts. All right, guys. Perfect. Next one. Before going to start the Steam API, let me talk about local date and time changes which happened in the Java 1.8 version. Date and time API very quickly we can complete so that Stream API we can start with a fresh mindset in the tomorrow session. Okay, na? Now let me go for another topic here, which is date and time changes happened in the Java 1.8 version. Date and time API changes. Date and time API changes. Okay, guys. Earlier in the Java, we have a concept called java.util class to work with the dates. Now let me go like here. Let me create one class, new class, date demo. I'm going for another class called date demo class. Here I'm writing my main method. Inside this main method, I'm creating the date object. Date d is equal to new date. Here I'm importing from util date. In the util class, there is a date. In the util package, there is a date class. Let me execute this system.out.println d. When I execute this date class, you can see it is printing the date and it is printing the time. It is printing the date and it is printing the time also. Got my point? But my requirement is I want to get the date, just date, not the time. I don't want to get the time. I want to get the just data. I just want to get the date. Guys, now from this, I want to get only date or I want to get only time. but the date object is giving me both date and time. Date object is giving me both date and time. In order to convert this data, for example, my requirement is I want to get the data in this format. My requirement is I want to get the date in this format dd/mm/yyyy. I want to print the date in this format, but when I create the date object, what happened here? When I create the data object, what happened here? When I create the data object, it is printing day, Thursday, December 22, time, IST 2022. A lengthy format is printed, but my expectation is I want to print the date like this. If I want to print the date like this, then what we need to do? Then what we need to do in the Java? What we need to do in the Java? Come on, guys. What we need to do in the Java? Here, in order to do that operation, we need to write our own logic. We need to write our own logic, guys. How to write our own logic for that? How to write our own logic for that? The logic that we need to do is by using a class called simple date format. There is a class called simple date format class is available. SDF is equal to new simple date format of a pattern. What is the pattern? I want to dd mm yyyy. Like this, I need to take a class called simple date format class. Simple date format class is available in java.text package. Date class is available in java.util package. Date class is available in the java.util package. Date class is available in the java.util package. And I want to convert that date into required format. Okay, in order to convert the date into required format, we need to use a special class java text.simple date format. In which format you want to convert the date, you need to create that pattern. I have created that pattern. Now sdf.format, give the date object. Give the date object for this. Date to D. I have given the date object. It has given the format. System.out.println of format. Now run this program. Now see, my date is converted into expected format or not? Come on, guys. Is my date converted into expected format? First time, when I create just date to D is equal to new date, it is giving date and time. But I want to convert the date into ddmmyy format. In order to do that conversion, earlier we need to take a simple date format class. In simple date format class, there is a method called format method. Format method is expecting date object as a parameter. That date object we are formatting into given format. Suppose if you want to convert into tribulium, what is the meaning of tribulium? When you give triple M, it will give the month name. When you give triple M, it will give the short name of the month. If you give the 4 M's, then it will give complete name of the month. That is the format. If you give just 2 Y's, then what will happen? If you just give the 2 Y's, it will give just last 2 digits of the year. So these are reserved characters when we are going with the date formats. Okay, guys, these are the D represents day, M represents month, double M represents month number, triple M represents short name of the month, 4 M's represents full name of the month, 4 Y's represents 4 digits of the year. Like this, we need to do that. For example, this is Indian date format. This is Indian date format. dd/mm/yy. For example, if you go for US date format, then what we need to do? US people will write MMDDYY. Okay, US people format will be available like this. SDF2, here they will first write the month, then they will write the date. Okay guys, so this is format 1. Now here SDF2 dot format 2, I'm printing format 2. So here I'm creating the date object, that date I'm printing as it is first. Then I am formatting that date into this format. Then I'm printing the format 1. This is Indian date format. In the India, whenever we are filling the form or whenever we are writing some date on the letter somewhere, we will prefer day, then month, then year. But in the US, they will write first month, then they will write the year. Sorry, they will write the month, then they will write the day, then they will write the year. Like this, I want to format it. Now, are we able to do the date format? Guys, are we able to do the date format? Are we able to do the date format? Yes. Which class we are using to do the date formats? Which class we are using to do the date formats? Which class? Simple date format. Where that simple date format class is available? It is available in the java.text package. Available in the java.text package. So here these methods are used to convert the date to string. Converting date to string. These methods are used to converting date to string. When we are working with our projects development, at several places we need to convert the date to string. I have data. The date I am converting to string. For example, if I want to convert the string to date, convert string to date. If I want to convert the string to date, now in order to convert the string to date, then what we need to do? We need to use a method called parse method. Here we are using format method. Format method is used to convert the given date object to this method is used to convert the given date object to string value. Format method is used to convert the date object to given date. Okay, converting string to data. For that I am taking simple date format. SDF3 is equal to new simple date format. New simple date format of pattern. This time I want to go for YY-MM-DD. Okay, SDF3 dot parse of format 2. Whatever the format 2 I have, that format 2 I am giving for parse method. Parse method is giving me parsed data. Parse method is giving me parsed data. System.out.println, I am printing parsed data. Here I am converting date to string. Here I am converting string to data. Parse. So let me give some other number. String to data. Whatever the date format I am giving here, let me give like this: 2022-12-20. Some value. Okay guys, now see here. First I got the date. That date I converted into string format. In the third scenario, I have given the date and I am converting into date format. So in the interview, they may ask this question: how to convert the date to string and how to convert the string to data. This is the normal process that we use to follow to deal with the dates in the Java. Understand my point? Are you guys able to understand my point? So which methods we have seen in the simple date format class? In the simple date format class, there are two methods available. One is the format method, another one is the parse method. What is the purpose of format method and parse method? If you observe, format method is taking date object, giving the string as the output. Parse method is taking string as the input, giving the date as the output. Date to string conversion, string to date conversion. For that, we will go for simple date format class. Okay, guys. Now, date and time API changes. In Java, we have java.util.date class to represent data. To represent date. In the SQL package also we have the date class. When we are dealing with a database, then to represent the database type date, we will go for java.sql. To represent application date, we have java.util.date. In Java, we have below two classes. In Java, we have below two classes to represent data. What are those two classes? First one is java.util.date, and the second one is java.sql.date. Okay, in Java we have below two classes to represent date, java.util.date and java.sql.date. Let me create the object for java.sql.date, date java.sql, data d is equal to new data of SQL data. When you are giving the SQL data object, it is expecting some parameter, long data. It is expecting some long value. Okay, 2022 12/22. Okay, system.out.println of D. System.out.println of D. Let me run this program. So it is doing some conversion. See, it is giving as 1970-0101. So whatever the data that we are giving, it is taking as a long value, long data. Construct the data object using the given milliseconds time value. If the millisecond date value contains time info, mask it out. So whatever that we are giving, it is taking as a milliseconds. Okay, so in the 1970, the GMT supported for milliseconds. That's why it is giving 1970 as that. It is giving 1970 as a output. You can set the time for that. You can set the value of that. So when we are going to deal with JDBC SQL formats, then we are going to use SQL.date. So in the Java, we have two classes to represent the date. One is java.util.date, another one is java.sql.date. Now, when we are dealing with database operations, to deal with when we are performing database operations, then we will use java.sql.date class. To deal with the date and time in the Java, we have two classes. One is java.util.date, another one is java.sql.date. When we are performing database operations, then we will use SQL date class. Okay, for normal date related operations, we will use java.util.date date class. Okay, date d is equal to new data. System.out.println of data. Okay, when we create the object for a date class, then what will happen? what will happen, guys? When we create an object for a date class, it will represent both the date and the time. Both date and time. If we want to get only date, if we want to get only date or only time, then we need to format it using simple date format class. That was the process earlier, right? In the Java, we have two classes available to represent the date. One is available in util package, java.util.date. Another one is available in SQL package. When we are performing database operations, then we will use java.sql date class. For normal date related operations, we will use util date class. So here I'm going for date d is equal to new date. System.out.println of d. When we create object for a date class, it will represent both date and time. If we want to get only date or only time, then we need to format it using simple date format class. So what is that simple date format class? In simple date format class is available in java.text package. Simple date format class is available in java.text package. Okay, simple date format class is presented in java.text package. Java.text.simple date format. Okay, guys, when you want to represent data, when you want to format that, then we will go for simple date format class. Okay, simple date format is a predefined class in java.text package. As of now, we have seen java.lang package, java.io package, java.util package, java.math package. First time we are seeing java.text package. In the java.text package, there is a class called simple date format. Simple date format is a predefined class in java.text package. This class provided methods to perform date conversions. This class provided methods to perform date conversions. Format method, it will take date as the input and it will return the string as the output. Okay, date to string conversion. Okay, guys, date to string conversion. Date to string conversion. Date to string conversion can be done by using format method. String to date conversion. String to date conversion. For that, we will use parse method. We will use parse method. Simple date format class. Simple date format is a predefined class in the text package. This class provided methods to perform date conversions. So I'm going to use the format method by giving the date object. Then it will format the date into required format and will give the string as a output. Suppose I have the string data. I want to convert the string data into date. Then I need to go for parse method. Okay, date conversions example. Date conversions example. All right, are you guys able to understand my point? How to work with the dates in the Java? What is the date class and what is simple date format class? Yes, tell me, what is the purpose of date class and what is the purpose of simple date format class in the Java? What is the purpose of date class and what is the purpose of simple date format class in the Java? Purpose of date class and purpose of simple date format class. Date class is used to represent the date. Simple date format class is used to convert the date from one format to another format. Here I created the date object. I just printed the date. When I print the date, it is printing everything, date and time. But I want only date or I want only time. Then what we need to do? What we need to do? We need to write the logic to convert it. How to convert the date from one format to another format? By using simple date format. Okay guys, in that there are two methods available. One is the format method, another one is the parse method. What is the purpose of a format method? Format method is used to convert the date to string. Parse method is used to convert the string to data. Okay, here I have given one example. This is converting date to string. This is converting string to data. Guys, can you see any problem here? Is there any problem in this approach? Can we see any problem in this approach? Yes, there is a problem, right? Whenever you go for a date, it is giving the date and the time. Whenever you go for the date, it is giving date and time. I want a separate class which represents only date, which represents only time, which represents date and time. It's my opinion, right? Sometimes I want to go for only date. Sometimes I want to go for only time. Sometimes I want to go for both date and time. Both date and time. Huh. Always, do you want me to do the formatting like this? It is a headache for the programmer or not? Guys, always formatting the dates is a headache for the programmer or not? Yes or no? Working with the dates is a very common scenario in every project. Sometimes we need to convert the date from one format to another format. So doing the date conversions is very common requirement. Doing the date conversions is very common requirement. Right guys, so in order to do that conversions, always we need to write our own logic. Simple date format class we need to use. To overcome the problems of this java.util class. Okay guys, java.util.date class. Java.util.date class does not provide any ready-made methods to convert the date from one format to another format or to parse the dates directly. Okay, to overcome the problems of java.util.date class, in the 1.8 they made the changes to date API. To overcome the problems of java.util.date class, Java 1.8 introduced date API changes. Understand? When I create the date, it is giving me date and time. But I want only date, or I want only time. I want only date. I want only time. When we want to do that operation, every time I need to do the logic. Every time I need to write that logic. Guys, converting the date from one format to another format, is it only my requirement or it is a universal requirement for every Java project? Is it only my requirement or it is a universal requirement? converting the dates from one format to another format? Is it only our requirement, or it is universal requirement? In every project, this scenario will be available, right? We need to represent the date and we need to convert the date from one format to another format. Do you understand what is the problem with java.util.date class? Can you guys tell me what is the problem with the java.util.date class? Can you guys tell me what are the challenges with java.util.date class? Any problem that you observed here? Any problem that you observed in java.util.date class, guys? No problem, huh? Our problem is there. Problem is there, or problem is not there? Guys, problem is there or problem is not there? Guys, come on. We have a problem or we don't have a problem? Problem is there. What is the problem? Always we need to write our own logic to convert the dates. To overcome this problem, they introduced java.util.date class in the 1.8 version. Okay. Now in Java 1.8 version, new classes got introduced to deal with date functionality. What are those classes? Java.time.localDate. There is one new class called java.time.localDate. There is another class called java.time.localTime. And there is a class called java.time.localDateTime. Local date time. Okay. Local date, it will deal with only date. It will deal with only date. Local time, it will deal with only time. It will deal with only time. It will deal with both date and time. It will deal with both date and time. Like this, they have given separate classes to deal with the date functionality. To overcome the problems of java.util.date class, Java 1.8 introduced date API changes. Okay, in Java 1.8 version, new classes got introduced to deal with date functionality, to deal with the date and time functionalities, to deal with date and time functionalities, right? Java.time. Earlier it was there in the util package. Now they have given the new classes java.time.localDate. It will deal with only date. Java.time.localTime. It will deal with only time. Java.time.localDate time. It will deal with both date and time. Okay, guys. Now let me go for another class here. New date demo. New class. I'm going for new date demo. So if you see here, I'm going to create first date object, normal util date object. Sorry, util.date. date D1 is equal to new date, util date. System.out.println of D1. Now you observe, when I create the object for the date and when I run, it is printing complete date and time. But now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to create a local date. Local date D2 is equal to new local date. Local date D2 is equal to new local data. First, if you observe, local date is a final class. Local date is a final class. Now, in the local date, there is a static method. Now is a static method which is used to get the object. Local date dot now. Okay. Whenever you give local date dot now, it is going to give you current date. It is going to give you current date. So see the difference between util date and local date. What is the difference between util date and local date, guys? What is the difference between util date and local date? Come on. What is the difference between util date and local date? Local date will deal with only date, not time and all. Okay. Local date. Local date is available, which is going to deal with a date object. Now, in this local date, you can represent plus days, plus months, like that you can represent. There are ready-made methods available. I want to do date dot plus days, days to add plus 2 or plus 3. When I add plus 3, what is going to come? Now let me take the date here. System dot out dot println of data. System dot out dot println of data. Now observe. First, it is giving today's date 2022 12/22. I have added plus 3, so 22 date became 25. Adding 3 days for the current date. Adding 3 days for the current date. Similarly, we can add date is equal to date dot plus months. I want to add 1 month. Now see the output. For the current date, I'm adding 1 month. Now see the output. See the output. It is becoming 2023 because this is December. 1 month if I add, it will become January. January means new year. New year. So whatever the date I am getting, for the date, I'm able to add the days. I'm able to add the months. I can add the years also. I can add the years also. Date is equal to date dot plus years. Plus years. How many years I want to add? 2 years I want to add. System dot out dot println of date. Now see the output. 2025. 2 years I have added. First I have printed current date by using local date dot now. Whatever the local date dot now is available, for that I have added 3 days. December 22 became December 25. For December 25, I have added 1 month. It became 2023 January 25. For this 2023 January 25, I have added 2 years. Then it became 2025 January 25. So, do we have ready-made methods to deal with the dates? Do we have methods to deal with the dates now? Ready-made methods available? Do ready-made methods to deal with that. And we can check one date is before another date or not. We can check one date is before another date or not. Local date dot parse method, which is used to convert local date dot parse. I'm giving some value. 2021 12 22 dot is leap year. So in the Java, we need to write lot of logic to check the given year is a leap year or not. But here, can we call the direct method is leap year? Whatever the data I'm giving, is the date belongs to leap year? Can we get that method? Boolean leap year system dot println leap year. Leap year false. 2020 not a leap year. Let me 2021 not a leap year. 2020 leap year. Yes. If the year is divisible by 4, then that is called as a leap year, right? 2021 is not a leap year. 2020 is a leap year. So direct ready-made method is available to check whether year is a leap year or not. Whether year is a leap year or not. Come on. Yes. We are able to check that. We are able to check that. And can we compare two dates? Is one date is before another date or not? Here you can do n number of operations with the dates. You can do n number of operations with the dates. Local date dot parse 2021 12/22 dot is before 2022 12/22. That is local date dot parse is before of local date dot parse. Whatever the text I am giving, the text is parsed to date object. Before or not. System dot out dot. Similarly, if you want to check one date is before another date or not, one date is before another date or not, we can check that. Similarly, is after method is also available. Yes, this is before than this. First 2021 year, then 2022 year. So this year is before, this date is before this date. Like this, you can compare the dates and we can check the year is leap year or not. For the date, you can add the months, you can add the years, you can add the days also. Plus days, plus months, plus years is leap year or not. Is one date is before another date or not, we are able to check. So such kind of ready-made methods available in local date class. Local date class. Similar to the local date, they have given one more class called local time. To represent with the date, directly you can go for local date class. If I want to represent the time, then I need to go for local time class. Local time also available in the local time is the class available in the Java time package. Local time is equal to local time dot now. Local time dot now. System dot out dot println of time. It will just print the time. What is the current time? 7:44. Printing that time. For the time, you can add plus minutes, plus seconds, plus hours, like that. Time dot plus hours. Let's add 2 hours. For the current time, if I add 2 hours, now what will be the time that I'm going to get? For the given time, I'm adding plus 2 hours. It is 21. Current time is 19. 19 means it is 7:45 now. So for the 7:45, if I add 2 hours, it will become 9:45. So to deal with the date, local date is available. To deal with the time, local time is available. Similarly, we have another class called local date time. I want to represent both at a time. Date time is available. That is local date time dot now. System dot out dot println date time. Okay. So here for everything there is only one class, java.util.date. But now for a date one class is available, for a time one class is available, for a date time one class is available. So they simplified programmer's life. They simplified programmer's life. Got my point? Good. Next one. Similar to this, there are some other classes also they have given. Period class is available and the duration classes also they have given. Period class is available and the duration class also they have given. Period. Period is one class which is available in java.time. There is a class called period class. Period class is available here. Period of days. Period of days. Period of days 5. I want to get the period object. I want to get the period object. Okay. System.out.println period. System.out.println of p dot get days. Period of days. 5 period I'm giving. Period of days I'm getting. Period of months. Period of years. Okay. Period between. Find the difference between two dates. I want to find the difference between two dates. Okay. Now, period of days, right? Period between, period dot between start date comma end date. I want to find the difference between two dates. So for that I'm giving local date dot parse of, let me give the date. Let me give my date of birth. 05/20. End date today. Today I'm giving local date dot now. I'm getting period between this. Okay. System dot out dot println between. Let me run this program. Period between, what it is giving, guys? 31 years, 7 months, 2 days. 31 years, 7 months, 2 days is the difference between this date and today's date. So how many years age you have, that you can find out that. Okay. Period between two dates, start date and end date. I have given my date of birth. Between my date of birth and today's date, how much gap is there? I'm able to find out that the period 31 years, 7 months, 2 days. Period 31 years, 7 months, 2 days. Here you can get directly between dot get years. How many years gap is available? Directly you can get the years also, 31. If you print period object will be printed. Period object will be printed. That period object will represent years, months, and days. If you just want to get years dot get months dot get years, then it is going to give you like that. Okay, so if you print that between directly, it is going to give you the complete gap between two dates. Complete gap between two dates. Like this, you can find the difference between two dates. You can check your how many years age you have by giving this period dot between. Similarly, they have given one more class called duration class. If you want to between the difference between two dates, duration between two dates, then you can go for duration class. Duration, this is a period and this is duration. Period class is available. Period is used to find the difference between two periods. I mean, one date and another date. So you can give any date that will be string format converted to local date. And this is first one is the start date, second one is end date. Duration, that is also predefined class available. Duration dot between two times. Okay, local time dot parse. Local time dot parse. I'm giving some time, something like 1930. 19th. I mean, let me check. 19 or 18. 18. 6 o'clock. Now, what is the time now? Local time dot now. I want to get the difference between class start time and now. Duration. How much duration our class happened? Yes, see here. Time 1 hour 50 minutes 44 seconds. Right, the duration is 1 hour 50 minutes. Class is happened like this. Period is used to complete the period is used to compare the dates. Duration is used to compare the time now between. Period between is taking date. Duration between taking time. All right. Here local date, I'm giving local date of dot now. Suppose for example, if I go for local date dot off, local date of off means I want to represent the date based on the given values. I want to represent the date based on the given value. I want to represent the date something like this, 2021. Month number I want to give as 1. Day of month I want to give as 20. Something like this. Now I got the local date of off. System.out.println with the given values. If you want to construct the local date object, then you can go for off method. 2021 first month, 20th is the date. With that I want to represent the date object. When I go for local date dot now, now means will represent the today's date. Off method means with the given values I want to create the date of off method and now method. In the local date class, we have off method and we have now method. Now method will represent today's date. Off method will represent the date based on the given values. Off method will represent the date based on the given values. Now method will represent the current date. You can do the plus days, plus months, plus years. You can do the parse to check the leap year or not. You can check one date is before another date or not. You can get the time by using local time. Local date time class also you can use. You can compare two dates, difference between two dates by using period class. You can compare the difference between two times by using duration class. Like this, these are the new concepts introduced in Java 1.8 version to deal with the dates. These are the new changes that introduced in the Java 1.8 version. Earlier, how people used it to work with the Java date concept, guys? Huh. Earlier, people used to create java.util.date and they used to work with a simple date format to do the conversions. But now that process got simplified. That process got simplified by using local date. Local date and local time, local date time, period class and duration class is available in order to work with the dates. In order to work with the dates. Clear? Yes. Date time API concept we understood. It's simple. Earlier java.util.date concept is available. Earlier java.util.date concept is available. Earlier java.util.date concept is available, but there are some challenges with that. To avoid those challenges, they introduced date and time API changes. Date and time API changes. What are the changes here? They introduced a class called local date, and they introduced a class called local time, and they introduced a class called local date time, and they introduced a class called period, and they introduced a class called duration. Yes. What is the purpose of local date? Local date is used to deal with the date. Local time, local date is used to deal with the date. Local date dot now will represent the current date. There are several methods to add the days, to add the years, to add the months. Ready-made methods are available. Local time will represent the current time. Date time class will represent date and time as well. Period will represent methods to find the difference between two dates. Duration is used to represent the difference between two given timestamps. Like this, we can deal with that. Understood? Okay, cool. Perfect. Yeah, every Java programmer will struggle with date formats because it is confusing. Now they removed that confusion by using Java 1.8 date API. Java 1.8 date API. Perfect, guys. Good. I have completed the date API changes now. So from tomorrow, we are going to start with the stream API. Stream API is very important. So from tomorrow is Friday, Saturday, we will work with the stream API. Okay, guys, good. Yeah. Thank you, guys. I'm going to upload this class notes. So please, I'm going to upload this class notes in the website. You guys download the latest class notes.